What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. So, um, this is Surviving R. Kelly Part 3, Episode 2. Ooh, gotta say that right. This episode really focused a lot on the enablers, like the people who enable this behavior, because again, they are proving, or their attempt is to prove a criminal enterprise. So in order to prove a criminal enterprise, again, you have to prove that this is like a whole, like a corporation, like a business. And so the enablers play a major part in that. And so that this episode really gets into a lot about that. So we have Faith's testimony, which is where we left off in the last episode. And Faith testified, to the sexual acts. They talked about the fact that he would fly her across state lines. But here's where, see, I think people get caught up in, well, they weren't underage, they weren't underage, they weren't underage. And I think that is the brilliance of the case, that the RICO case, because again, you get away from were they underage, were they not underage, and you get into, again, she testified to an incident where he was questioning her, and he was questioning her with a weapon, right? He had a weapon, he was holding the weapon to her, and he was questioning her. Well, now you get into criminal activity, because now you're getting into intimidation, and then he forced her to perform sexual acts under the threat of, he has a weapon. If I don't do this, then he could possibly hurt me. And so now you go from a consensual act to an act of almost a forced labor. Like, I have to do this or there's going to be a punishment if I don't perform this act. So on Monday, yeah, we had consensual sex. I was in love. That was my boo thing. But then on Wednesday, he brought another element into it, which no longer made this a consensual situation, because now I'm performing these acts under the intimidation, under the threat of some sort of punishment, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. At one point during Faith's testimony, they were playing a tape of an abusive act that took place at the studio. Well, his music was playing in the background while the abusive act was taking place. Now, only the jury and the judge could actually see what was happening on the tape, because it was a sexual situation. But the audience, the people in the galley, or the gallery, and of course the lawyers and stuff could hear. And they said that R. Kelly was actually sitting at the desk and playing his fingers like he was playing the music, and like vibing along to the music, like he was in the studio, like he was making music, not even acknowledging the fact that, yes, your music is playing, but your music is playing while you are violating this woman, and you are in court for that. Like, they were like, just the level of narcissism in that moment. And he did it throughout. Like, it wasn't like he was like, oh, shoot, let me catch myself. Like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. Like, he literally, the whole time that the video played and his music was playing, he was doing that. He was playing along, like you pretended like you playing the piano at the table. And like, it was surreal. They said he also did things to try to intimidate the witnesses by doing this cough. That all of them, well, not all of them, a lot of them identified as that cough as being sort of a signal to them when they were, with him, like, okay, acknowledge me, I'm here, kind of thing. And they also, again, not all, but they talked about it being a trigger, because they remembered that cough meant something. It was a response expected. So Faith's mother ended up testifying, and she testified to the intimidation, to the things that she witnessed and that she experienced, again, because of his enablers. She talked about threats that were made against her, threats that were made against her family, death threats made against Faith. She talked about an incident that happened at the premiere, which, of course, we remember the premiere to R. Kelly, the first part of the documentary. Somebody called in a gun threat. I said a bomb threat in the last video, but it was a gun threat. That when her mother went back to the hotel, Cash Jones was there. Now, Cash Jones is one of his one of his assistants, and she told the mother, "Look, I got a phone here that's got videos of Faith. And you don't want those videos to get out." And she said Faith took the phone, looked at the videos, and said, "Okay, do what you're gonna do. Like, I don't care. Like, at this, I don't care anymore. Like, if you're gonna release the tapes, release the tapes. Do what you're gonna do." There was also an incident with a man that had a weapon, and showed the weapon as a way to intimidate her mom. And that man was Donnell Russell. Now, Donnell Russell is interesting, and shout out to Nick at Night. They had when he went on to her YouTube channel and did an interview, and of course he denied calling in the threat. He denied knowing anything about the threat. He said, "Yeah, I know it happened, but I don't know who did it." Donnell was also the man that they're saying threatened them as well. Well, he was eventually charged with calling in that threat, and he pled guilty. He also pled guilty to intimidation of Faith's mom and some other counts as it relates to Faith's mom. So, kudos there. Some of the other names that came up was a Demetrius Smith, a Larry Hood, who was also a Chicago police officer who testified that he never saw R. Kelly with underage girls, but then turned around and testified that he saw R. Kelly with Aaliyah. Well, Aaliyah was underage. There was a Daryl McDavid who he was accused of paying off, doing the payoffs, paying off a lot of the victims, and paying off the hush money. But he wasn't convicted. He was acquitted. He was also, but okay. The doctor testified and confirmed that R. Kelly did have herpes, and that went back to all of the women who testified that he gave them herpes. Faith was, I think, one of the first ones to say that, and of course nobody believed, that was one of the things that she said, that she would be trolled online, that nobody believed her. And at least 2 other of the victims said that they contracted herpes from R. Kelly, and so it was confirmed that he did have herpes at the trial. By 2019, R. Kelly was broke, and a lot of people feel like that's really the only reason why he's now being held accountable, because he no longer had the money to maintain the criminal enterprise. He could no longer pay the assistants, pay the hush money, pay the lawyers to get him out of trouble, and as a result, the corporation crumbled because there's no money to pay people, and so the protection was sort of gone. We heard about Geronda Pace, who was 14 at the time. Remember, that's the young lady that met him at his first trial, and she, was a fan, and she didn't believe that he was guilty, and she ended up being with him. And she said, again, one of the members of his entourage reached out to her through MySpace to contact her. She was with him for 6 months. He knew she was underage because she showed him an ID of her being 16, which she still wasn't even 16. She was 14. He told her to keep telling people that she was 19 and to act like she was 21. Now, her last night with R. Kelly, the breaking point for her was that he choked her until she blacked out, and she said when she came to, he spit on her, and then he masturbated and ejaculated on her face. Then he told her to go to the bathroom and clean it up. So she said what she did was she wiped it off of her face, but wiped it onto her shirt. And she left, and the shirt with his DNA, his sperm and DNA, was proof that there was a sexual relationship. She also kept a journal. She testified in court as well, and of course his attorneys just called her a groupie, a fan, a stalker, all of these different things, but she stuck to her story, never changed her story from the first time she told it. Then we find out about Miss Diana. Diana was his assistant of 15 years, and Diana was the one that everybody talked about, that she was the assistant. She was the one, if you go back to part 1 where they said they had to call the assistant if they wanted something to eat, they had to text the assistant or call the assistant if they had to go to the bathroom. Diana was that assistant. She made all of the travel arrangements when they were traveling to see him, getting the hotel rooms. That was Diana. And the question is, there's no way that she could not have known what was going on. For her to be so intricate in his day-to-day movement, there's no way that she did not know what he was doing. They talked about the fact that even with her arranging flights to have these underage girls cross lines, and she did do an interview with Michael Strayhorn on Good Morning America, and of course she denied anything. She said, I worked for R. Kelly, I was an assistant, but anything dealing with his sexual, exploits, I didn't have anything to do with. I wasn't a part of it. I didn't plan anything, and I didn't have, basically she was clearing her name, child. She was trying to clear her name. Of course, she didn't participate in the documentary. There was also a Suzette Mayweather, who again was an assistant that, was the, go get what you need. Now, that Dominique, if you guys remember from part 1 and part 2, Dominique was the one whose mom rescued her and got her away in LA, and she did not participate in the documentary, but her mother did. She said Dominique got through the trial. She was planning a wedding. She was focusing on her future, focusing on getting married, focusing on being happy, and she was not focused. She said that was just a chapter in her past that she wasn't interested in reliving. However, the situation with Diana made her sad, because she said Diana was one of the few people that she was able to really talk to while she was there, when she would be left alone. And the fact that Diana denied everything, she said she knew what was going on. And I thought that she was somebody that cared about us. Like, we sort of talked about things and bonded over things. And her mother said that Dominique was very hurt by the fact that Diana didn't step up and didn't defend them, even after feeling like they had a different bond. Dominique did not participate in the trial, but her name was said over 200 times. They spoke about the fact that Dominique was the one that stayed in trouble because she was very rebellious. And a lot of times he would leave her, or he would physically punish her. And that's what Dominique said. She said when she would be left by herself or left behind, Diana was the person she would talk to, the person that she would, like to spend time with. They told the story about one time Dominique got in trouble because it was an all-girls birthday party for R. Kelly, and Dominique was twerking with another girl. He didn't like it. He was upset by it, and so he took the two girls upstairs to a different room and forced them to fight each other. Again, a manipulation tactic, a control mechanism. And that's pretty much where part 2 ends. It looks like part 3 is going to get into the Aaliyah situation, and they're going to dig deep. I think a lot of people have tiptoed around the Aaliyah element of this. One, because she's not here to defend herself, and two, because everybody loved Aaliyah. Aaliyah was the beautiful young girl, the princess. She was talented, and we all loved her. However, there's a lot to that story that has never really been told, especially as it relates to her mom's involvement and her uncle's involvement. So it'll be interesting for me to watch part 3 and hear what they say about that. Anyway, that was part 2. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.